Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
So on our weekly podcast, we talked about building during difficulty last time, but I think we actually shared that with you guys too, actually. Yeah, we did. So anyway, we kind of came up with a part two. So building during difficulty part two, kind of like where to start. And so I think, from a building during difficulty standpoint, this obviously applies to business, but it certainly could apply to career as well. The first thing that we came up with was, I wonder if I can share. We came up with kind of what build. And what we said, focus on, what are you good at? So choosing what to find a job. On prospect and said not everybody on that.
Yeah, so it's essentially this is interest you have on the what you enjoy doing. So or the if you go towards the is that you also things that
I love this.
Would it be good to we lie, we could be by so what we
yeah, and it's a very good question because
especially someone who loves you, I think it should be probably, in my opinion, it should be guys with guys, girls with girls, would be better. Somebody who loves you, somebody who is maybe, hopefully older or at least your same age would be probably useful. And somebody who will tell you the truth, can be really helpful, because that changed my perspective a lot when that happened to me. So I would agree with you, Paul, that getting some advice, I think, if people know you want advice, that's actually attractive. Like, okay, so this guy is going to actually listen. Like, that's unusual. It's not normal. I don't know if you guys have seen this in life, but people normally can't accept advice. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's attractive if you're that way. If you're like, no, I really want to know where I'm screwing up, or I really want to know what my strengths are. In this case, it's more about your strengths, right? I really want to know where my strengths are. So long story, but I just wanted to reinforce what you said, Paul.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Apparently I can't swallow water very well. Sorry. Dennis, what do you think about this? How do you find, kind of like what you're good at, whether that's a business or a career? How can you find that?
To tell you honestly, I don't have a definitive answer. It's just a result of series of observations and kind of self-reflections. At some point of time, you just see that in certain environments you are better than in others. So for example, in my particular case, I had a chance to work quite a bit with kind of private equity people. And then one of these private equity companies was sold to a public company. So without kind of my desire, I had a chance to compare them side by side in pretty much the same walls. And definitely saw how much I enjoyed while it was a kind of privately owned, efficiency-oriented company versus kind of the much larger company. So to give an example, in a small company, if you had some great idea, so if you just walk around the plant and then you observe something that you think should be improved, your next step is you just go to your boss, which is naturally kind of next door to your office, and say, well, okay, Jerry, I have this and that idea. What do you think? And his only question is like, well, how much resources do you need? Like, well, not much. Great, just go and do it. You have my blessing to do it. In the same company, the same plant, the same everything, except for now it's owned by a much larger publicly traded company. You walk around the same plant, you observe a thing that can be improved, kind of the same person, the same idea. You propose that to Boston people. The first response is, oh, well, okay, so now you have to send us a PowerPoint presentation to 5 people in Boston. Well, okay, so this is a day of my life wasted. Instead of explaining in 5 minutes what I want to do, I spend the whole day on the PowerPoint presentation, send this PowerPoint presentation, and then in 3 weeks, try to follow up and figure out that 3 out of these 5 haven't even opened your email. And well, you just observe it and you just compare it side by side and say, well, okay, I like this, and I'm apparently do not like that.
Yep. Interesting. Good. Something that I did accidentally, I was during this process, I kind of boiled down, I don't know what meeting, I don't know what interview, I've done so many things for so many interviews, but as far as preparation drills for people. But one of the things I did was I came up with keywords for myself, and I thought long and hard about this before an interview. How can I, in 3 words, say who I am to this company? And it has to be authentic. But you know, in my case, I thought about it, and I always try to build things. I'm always building stuff. So in my case, it's not with my hands. It's more digital or thought processes or whatever. You know what I mean? So I'm always building something. In fact, Jordan's probably tired of me because I love talking about his business. His business, because I don't have one right now, and so I'm always talking about, hey, what if we did this process, or what if we, you know, experimented and we built this, you know, I'm always, it's just kind of what I do. I just like to build stuff. The other thing I like to do is I like to evangelize things, and then the third thing is I like to coach people, you know, in different ways, whether that be my own kids or at work or whatever it may be. So I boil down, not from fake, but from just like Dennis just said, by observing his own behavior, that he likes to work in this certain way. He kind of has these strengths, and you know, I basically turn those into keywords. So I'm going to write down for what Dennis said is basically observing what you like. I think that was good. And then I'm going to add to that just the come up with keywords describing how you work or what you're good at or something. I don't know. Well, I don't know what you call that, guys, but something like that maybe. But yeah, the keywords exercise was really helpful. So now you've got a matrix of kind of what you're what you enjoy doing and what you're good at. You've got this concept of observing what you like in business or in career, and then you can boil that down to keywords. So that's pretty cool that we've had 3 different approaches that speak to that pretty well. Anybody else want to dive in on this? This is a slightly different, maybe delivery of a life group than we were thinking, and I think we should run with it because I think it's good. We can still cover some of our planned topics, but I do like this a lot, actually. Jordan, you got anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you guys are all well said. I mean, seems about what we covered in our podcast prior. I really like Paul's chart. I think it's great insight to be able to evaluate that evaluation of, am I good at it versus do I like doing it? So I think one thing that we talked about was choosing what to build, and we strictly did it in business, was what are people willing to pay you for?
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Good point. So, and that can apply to career as well, because Dustin, people might come to him at work on a certain type of topic. That could be, and that's kind of what they're paying you for. So, in Jordan's case, we talked about how JL seems to be getting some traction, even though maybe his heart and his passion is around branding overall. A niche of that is social media, and people are sort of like paying for that right now. That's kind of the starting place, and maybe it's a spectrum where he can do more with that over time and sell them the full branding aspect that they really need once they get to know him. But people relate to social. It's kind of like a bite-sized way to start, and so that's what he's talking about as far as what are people willing to pay for. But the career example of that is that, Dustin, maybe there's a specific thing at work that you're a little stronger at than other people, That's a similar thing.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, specifically at work. Obviously, when working on cars and stuff, everybody has their specialties, what, brand they're better at, and obviously, have more experience in a specific field. And but I like the view of what people ask you for advice for, what people come to you for, what people will pay you for, and seeing what the marketplace tells you as opposed to what you yourself tell yourself. So what is the market willing to pay you for your expertise?
Yeah, or maybe it's it's been a while since I've been in a corporate career, but maybe I'm doing a certain job and I enjoy the job, just like Paul's graph showed. It was in the bottom square over here. I enjoy it, but it's not really what I want to do. But then, an hour of every day, I get asked to do this one specific task, and I really love doing it, and I'm really good at it, and I wish I could do more of it. Well, then that's kind of a key of maybe I should start building a career around this one task that this job only lets me do for an hour. Maybe there's a job that I can do that for 8 hours a day, or a business I can start that I can do that. So
That's really interesting. That spoke to me.
Well, I gave you an example of that last week for you to chew on. Howie, if you remember.
I don't. Sorry.
Do you want me to share it?
Yeah, I mean, is it going to be? You know what? I don't care if it embarrasses me. Go ahead. What is it?
I don't think it'll embarrass you.
Okay.
It's you've been on the job hunt now for 90 days, and you're really good at it. And I think you've got processes and procedures in place to do it well. And I just said there's a lot of people who would pay to have you do something very similar for them. Not necessarily, I mean, you're not interviewing for them, but you have so many avenues and that you're utilizing. And I mean, you're creating essentially a personal brand business on getting a job. And there's a lot of people who could utilize something like that, was my suggestion.
Just
Yeah, I
like
remember
a real estate or a rental locator. I mean, people need help if they don't want to sit down and go through the research. They're willing to pay for that. Why wouldn't they be willing to locate a job?
Yep.
Yeah,
It's true.
and it's not a recruiter in the aspect that a recruiter has either one or a certain amount of clientele. I mean, Howie's reaching out to everybody all across platforms and things like that because of the procedures he's set up, and so.
Yeah, this is what he's talking about. So I've kind of got a whole. This is the guy that I cold called. This is the chief sales officer for Zscaler, and so I had this whole thing on social engineering to get a hold of him, and I already found I use this free tool called. Well, actually, I don't know that it's free. I might be on a trial. I don't know, but I used a tool called Seamless to find his email address, and with HubSpot, it'll actually track. I know he opened it, and I know when he opened it too. So yeah, I do have a little bit of a process that could be, that's interesting. Even if I did it as a ministry, because I don't have time, Jordan, to do it, to go, like I have to find myself a job. I don't have the option to go have someone give me $100 to go teach them all this. But what I could do is as a ministry, I am willing to go document it. Yeah, that might be good. And that fits the business college thing too, that I'm kind of talking about. Not kind of, I'm doing it. And the first thing is how to get a job, because it doesn't matter, the rest of it if you don't have a job. So the first two classes of this. So guys, I'm doing this weekend business college. It might be, I mean, don't hold your breath. It may be like a year before you ever see a class, but I have this whole this framework of a curriculum that I'm going to build, and it's going to be probably like a 1 or 2 year program, and it'll be things that are drop dead practical. Like Dennis, I might want you to come in and give a class about, hey, here's financial analysis, or whatever, you know what I mean? So I don't know what all the topics are, but the first two, I already did a webinar on the first one, which is how to find a job. But this is a kind of like taking it to the next level. Like here's some very, very specific things you can do as far as, being organized and all that. So anyway, yeah, that could be, so, Jordan, maybe I don't charge for it, but maybe it's enough that it's a ministry thing. And I take the time knowing that A, I can broadcast it on YouTube now, but B, I can use it in the future as one of the weekend sessions.
Yeah. I think you'll find people will pay for it, just like Dustin said.
Hey, have you checked out Udemy yet?
I know about it, but I haven't used it.
Okay, so Udemy is the exact same thing what you're talking about. So they have a vast network of people who have created content or courses, right? Their expertise in whatever field. So a lot of times they started on YouTube, created obviously free content, but of course, the majority of the time on YouTube, it's not organized. Well,
True.
when you go to Udemy, you organize the course, make it a course format, and then you can sell it for, $5-10 to somebody who's willing to go through the content. I mean, I went through the content when I was learning social media, how to crawl webs, how to build stuff, and literally some of the stuff was free. Obviously, you can create free stuff, and then based off of that, you can then determine, hey, this is what people are looking for, and then create a course and just sell it for $10. And people do it all day long. I mean, there's good courses, there's awful courses, but people rate you, the better your rating, the more, you're up front. I mean, there's some really, really good stuff on there. And I would definitely
Yeah,
advise you to check it out first and
that's
see
really
if
cool.
that's, yeah, but literally, like, you can come up with your own courses and certificates, or, really, sky's the limit as far as that's concerned.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I like it. I wrote those notes down selfishly. Sorry for using you guys' space for my own notes, but I could use some HubSpot training, even though I know my way around it a little bit. I could use some training.
I
Also,
guarantee you
when
there's something on
yeah,
HubSpot.
yeah, you would think.
Guarantee.
And then when you said SEO, I was like, you know what? I wouldn't mind learning about
Yep.
SEO.
Yeah, I've taken like 3
Yeah.
or 4 SEO classes. I even got like there's a there's a free, I have to look at it, but it actually trains you and gives you like a certificate. There's a
Oh, cool.
website. They're like the #1 in SEO. Um,
Wow.
and then you just go through their course. It's completely free. You do a certificate, and then you can show, because I mean, there's not a college course for SEO, but if you're the top company that creates this SEO software and you're giving certificates out, that is going to be the standard. So if you go to somebody and say, hey, I have experience doing this and this and this, and by the way, I've gone through this, here's my certificates through this website, that even helps you out more, because that's puts you on the next level to somebody else who just says, yeah, I'm good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's cool. That's very cool. Good stuff. Well, Dennis, what else you got here?
Not much to add to what's already been said. I mean, there are a lot of very wise ideas here.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things we talked about in our kind of prep was, where's the low-hanging fruit? And Jordan, you had something that was good in that regard, which was so good I literally didn't say anything after it.
Yeah, so I talked about where's a current problem that you see, or even a past problem that you've already dealt with. So instead of trying to recreate or find a problem or something like that, what are you already dealing with? Whether it's in your current job, or whether it's in your past job or something like that, you already have insight knowledge that there is a problem. The solutions that were provided are no good, or need improvement, and just start there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, where's the problems? Where's the pain? I mean, that's a really good, when we talk about where to start, when you're, building during difficulty, whether it's a career thing or whether it's a business thing, finding a problem, or in my last company, we used to call them pains, finding a pain. What's nice about that is that if you focus on a pain, you're so relevant, because everybody's got pain. Like you guys were saying about, helping people find jobs. I mean, right now it's an epidemic. It's a real, there's a lot of people who need that help. So that pain is pretty obvious out there, just as that example. Or in the case of, Jordan's business, the social media problem, or in Dennis's case, how can I build during difficulty by streamlining my operations? Everybody can fire people, but how can we streamline operations, and solve that particular pain? Find the low-hanging fruit without, we try not to let people go, would be the perfect story. So yeah, I think, anytime you can focus in your career on a pain or on a business, that would be great. I've told you guys a story before that I used to have people, before my first management job, I used to help people, in my sales team quite a bit, to the point that people started to line up outside my cubicle, and they came to me more than the manager. And, the manager was happy that, I was helpful. It wasn't like I wasn't taking his job at all. It was very complimentary to what he was doing. But I was on the floor, I became a team leader because of that. And all I had been doing was to try to solve a problem, to solve their pains and to help them. And so you never know what's going to happen when you help people. When you find a problem that you know how to fix, and then you fix it. That's the low-hanging fruit, and that's a real great way to solve a problem. One of the things that I've thought about doing, I've done some 3 different times now. I've done some business analysis. I think I told you guys about this for my interviews for 3 different CEO level kind of people. I've done some business analysis on the sales and growth side, because that's all I know really right now, at least. And I got responses from all 3 of those CEO or CEOs type titles, before. And again, because I addressed a problem that they had, and I gave them some suggestions to solving that. So if you have in your situation, in your company, something that you can see as a problem, and then you go insert yourself and proactively try to give some advice about taking that problem on, what a ministry you've been, and what a help you've been, and how Christ-like you've also been too. Because the Bible says that Jesus walked around doing good and healing all that were sick and oppressed of the enemy, right? Well, the other day I was reading the Bible. I was reading the Gospels. I'm in the U version. They've got the Bible in the year thing. So I've been doing that good. And it occurred to me that Jesus walked around, but if Jesus would have been walking around businesses, he could have actually walked around and cured businesses. He could have actually, it's just that the context was people were coming to him with leprosy, so he healed leprosy. And people were coming around that were blind, so he healed blindness. But he also turned water into wine. There were a few examples that were close to a business scenario, actually, that he did actually heal or cure or fix or address. And so I just had this revelation as I was reading that, if Jesus was on the earth right now, which he is through us, then there's a lot of business and career problems that he could actually heal, and he could actually do a miracle for. And so I think, when you guys, if you want to look for a miracle, you kind of have to start with a problem first. So if you want to see miracles in your life, then somebody probably has to be sick for you to go pray for, or a business has to have a problem, or maybe an opportunity that's not discovered. Maybe it's a good thing instead of a problem. It's a good, they need to grow more. They're ignoring X, Y, and Z, or whatever it may be. Or Dustin could find like, hey, this is a crappy way for us to keep track of our customers. I could pray about it, and God could give me an idea to solve that, to be more organized, more collaborative, or whatever the business problem might be. I don't know, I'm making that up. But what came to me when I was reading the Gospels is that Jesus went around doing good and healing all that were sick and oppressed of the enemy. And we're supposed to go and be his disciples on the earth. And the things that we encounter are a little less on the health side a lot of times, but we do encounter a lot of business problems and business opportunities. So we are his vessel and his light, and we can do miracles. And so I just want to kind of challenge us. And actually, Jordan and I are with Yuri, and I don't know who else is on this. We're on a Bible plan right now as well. And the last 2 days I've actually talked about business miracles. And it's, in one case it was Guatemala. There's a problem. Today's was about Guatemala and how there was this whole community that had like cursed ground or something. It wasn't producing very well. And people cried out to God, and the crops started doing really well, like very well. And they used to ship like 3 truckloads a month, I think it was. And then it was like 40 a week, like that level of, like the carrots were as big as like a man's arm, apparently. I mean, that was just a dramatic healing of the land in this agricultural situation. And people were repenting, and 80% of people apparently they figured out that 80% of people were saved in this town. And the day before there was another business miracle. So I think, where's the low-hanging fruit? Jordan is saying, look for the problem to solve. And I think that's a really, really neat statement. And I would just encourage you, as the second part of that, is that we're Jesus, and we should be bold, and we should look for an opportunity for a miracle, and we should ask God for a miracle. And you might be part of the miracle. It might be that he gives you the idea. It happens to be something that you can do. So anybody have any comments on that? I'd kind of like to rap about that a little bit.
I love that thought, Howie, that, and I firmly believe that Jesus healed businesses, you know, and I know I'll credit Dustin. Dustin and his wife got me onto the Chosen series, and it just really expounded my mind of, you know, the scriptures give us, you know, a very specific incident, and sometimes it does give you a lot of detail, you know, but it doesn't give you everything. There's so much that's not given there, and it just allows you to take whatever God is allowed you to be in right now. And again, everybody who's listening presently or later is business related, and so you got to believe that. I mean, he's going around and he's buying food, you know, he's in the market, you know, he's doing those things, and you got to believe that in a moment he didn't call everybody to follow him like he did Peter, James, and John. You know, leave your business and what you're good at, but you got to believe that he spoke to some people and said, stop doing that. That right there, I caught you in the middle of it. I'm not going to shame you or condemn you, but you know what? Maybe if you stop doing that, this would happen. And maybe he had a little parable to go on with that, but it was so specific to that person. It didn't get written down like everything else, you know? And so that just allows me to then invite God into the little circumstances. No, I don't have to have leprosy to invite God into the moment. Man, God, you know, I'm having problems with growing a brand. Well, you know how to grow a brand, you know? And so.
Well, if you think about it, you know, when Jesus was trying to recruit, or actually I think it was after he rose from the dead, and he was trying to kind of re-recruit his own people back, he told them to throw their nets on the other side. So Jesus knows how to bring in a lot of fish, and he knows when a business is getting zero sales, he knows where they can put the nets. And so if we can just hear that voice and ask him, you know, where do we put the nets? Then he can, you know, make those fish, you know, jump into those nets as well. So yeah, I think we have to ask. We have not because we ask not.
I think part of it is the value too. I was listening to something, a podcast earlier, but it just made me rethink of it, is that when blind Bartimaeus is crying out and you know, Jesus asked him, says, what do you need from me? What do you want me to do? You know, and he wanted to know what was of value. But that was the same thing if you think about with Elisha and the widow who had the problem. You know, they're going to come take her boys from her. She's got this debt she can't pay. They're going to come take her kids. You know, Elisha says, what do you want me to do? You know, what do you have? And she said, I just got this little jar of oil. Well, that's all you need. Are you willing to use it? You know, so.
Wow, that's good. Interesting. So he took what she already had. Interesting.
Yeah, but both of them originated with a problem. Blind Bartimaeus was blind.
Yeah.
Actually, I think in Luke says that he wants to see again. So
Okay.
he was able to see, but then he went blind somehow.
Okay.
But then like the widow,
yeah,
you know, I was even thinking about that, is that
really good.
The widow, her husband served Elijah, you know?
Right.
And so then maybe you go down that path. Maybe her husband came back and said, you will never believe what Elijah did today. He was telling him all about these miracles. And so then she's like, hey, I see you walking by. I need a miracle, you know, and this is all I got.
Beautiful.
So,
and I like everything you said. Inspires me because, you know, if you think about when Jesus walked around, everybody had their own little ideas. Like this one lady was like, I'm going to reach out and touch the hem of his garment. And like, where was that written down? Like, if you shall reach out and touch the hem of his garment from behind, then thou shalt be healed of an issue of blood. That's not written down anywhere. She just deployed faith, right? And there's all kinds, just for example, what the heck? Whoever thought of like, oh, I'm going to turn water into wine? What? That's never been thought of, right? And so, and his mom was like, do whatever he says. And I'm just like, that's so presumptuous. There's so many things that you and I would say that's presumptuous, but it's not. It's just reaching out. I'll give you another example. What the heck? Jonathan and his armor bearer are like, I mean, just think about this. Like, if the Philistines tell us to come up here, then God has given them into our hands. And if not, then we know that he hasn't given. Like, did God say that? No, God's just like listening to that and honoring that presumptuous, bold faith. So in all these cases, or the widow who needed help, it's just like reaching out, and he just tends to meet us in our ask. He tends to reach us and to sort of like meet us in that faith. And sometimes it's presumptuous. It's like you're just making it up. You're just like, well, I'm going to decide that I'm going to trust God because blah, 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 right? And the Bible says that without faith, it's impossible to please God. So therefore, with faith, it is possible to please God. But it also says that we know that in all things, how's it go? The next part of it's like, he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. So there is a reward for that faith. And so I just think it's awesome, find a problem, know that it's a God of miracles, be presumptuous, even make up your own rules. Like, I'm going to touch the hem of his garment because I don't know what else to do. I got the hem of his garment right here. I'm going to trust God with that. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to touch God in some way. And there's something about that he loves. I don't know what it is that he loves when we trust him like that, but it pleases him and it blesses him. So that's really neat. Anybody have any comments on this? Me and Jordan are just getting excited.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the last bit is down here, and it's asking for help. And listen, I think everybody should pick one of these to talk about. But I mean, I've had to ask for help. I told Jordan some ideas about referrals earlier. He's got customers that he that pay for his services. So asking for referrals is a very sales motion that every salesperson does at some point in their career. Some people live that way though, which is really good. I'm more of the occasional, when I think about it, asking for a referral. But I've been asking for help. So I showed you that guy, this one over here at Zscaler that I'm going for this commercial sales director. And I don't know this guy here, but I do know that Rick Pither, who knows me a little bit from back when I used to work with him, works somewhere underneath this guy. So I had Rick submit my resume and all that stuff to this guy. And then my pinging this guy was just sort of like after that. So there's like layers of work going on to try to maybe get attention to that job. But yeah, asking for help, asking for, in this case, it was a referral and it was also a favor. I think Jordan or somebody, no, it was Paul, I think, talked about asking for advice earlier. So what are some, maybe everybody can just take one of those, how do we deploy help from others? I mean, we have to be willing to receive, right? Dustin, how do you ask for help or referral or favor advice? What's something, or resource? Have you ever had to do that, or is that not really in your wheelhouse?
Man, it's really hard. I'm still working on this now. I'm so quick to help people, and not quick to ask. I have an issue with asking for help. So that's something that I need to work on, because I'm very self-reliant and self-motivated, and I can figure things out. But that's not how God built us. God built us for relationships, and we can't grow as the body of Christ independently. We built it through those relationships, and I really think that through relationships, you're able to get those referrals. You're able to get those favors when you build genuine relationships. I think that's, when you ask for help, that's awesome. But I think it begins with what kind of relationships are you building?
It's good.
And then that opens up for the ability to ask for help. So that's important.
There's a guy, Jordan B Peterson, that I like a lot, and one of his he's got the 12 rules for life thing. He talks about this somewhere where you should ask someone for help so that they can ask you for help later. And I don't really know where he's coming from on that, but I just was, when you were talking about that, I was reminded that he said that it's good to ask someone for help or whatever, or advice or resources or whatever, because then they can ask you for help later on. And I don't know why that's, I don't know, maybe that's just how we build relationships. Maybe that he's saying that's just better for you for relationships.
Well, that builds trust. I mean, how do you trust somebody, when you have a relationship, right? You have to make yourself vulnerable, and the way to do it is to ask for help. And if the person reciprocates, then they put themselves out there.
Okay.
And then make themselves vulnerable, and then it just continues. So you just continuously build that friendship. You build that trust with one another.
I think I'm pretty bad at that.
I'm really bad at that.
Hey, self-awareness is the first step.
I think if you, even though I just gave you an example of me doing it, that's a very cold, like getting, a job referral. I think most people would probably do that. Like, hey, do you mind submitting my resume and helping me get some attention on this? That's a fairly clinical, clean, cold thing versus like me really like, Dustin, I really could use your advice. I'm really struggling. Can you tell me what you think about this? Like, like lowering, like really putting myself out there. I don't think asking for a job, I think people should do it. Everybody should ask for job referrals, no doubt. So I don't want to badmouth that approach. But yeah, I think I'm not very intimate in my asks. In fact, it's so rare. I can remember when I was at the gym and I had crushing depression. So bad, I remember this. And I actually texted Jordan asking me to pray for me. That's how easy. Remember how long ago that was? That's the last time I can remember doing that, being vulnerable. So I think this is this is actually convicting me that I'm horrible at this. Dennis, what about you, man? Do you ask for help, resources, referrals, favors, advice? How are you with doing that?
Less frequently than I should. The short answer.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one that stands out to you that you would prefer to do?
For me, there are more or less different flavors of kind of the same thing as you guys explained. It just kind of putting yourself in the vulnerable position and asking for assistance, and to me, kind of help, referrals, favors. That's all different flavors of assistance. And,
Anyways, I think most men are not very good at this. I don't know if it is in the nature of us. But one thing that I try to educate myself and Jordan mentioned this is to self-awareness. Make sure that you are aware that you need help. And another way that it may fall into this advice part is always is to look for a second pair of eyes. Say for instance you have an issue, it can be a relation issue or something at work or something, and you say, hey, and you obviously need to be somebody who you trust, and at least if it is not a mentor or some peer that you really trust, and then you case, I have this situation, this is how I'm planning to go by this situation, what do you think? And then you put the other person in a seat of a coach, and even though he may not have the answers, because it's someone who trusts, can probably, give you some ideas or probably spot some things, that you may think how to go by as a particular situation.
Wow.
I was listening to Ian Morgan Cron earlier. He's one of kind of the new age Enneagram guys right now. But he was talking and he shared a characteristic. He said that Cornell did a study of the most successful entrepreneurs, executives, CEOs, and was trying to find the number one characteristic that everybody had that would make you successful. You guys want to know what it is?
Yeah, we're all dying. You can't tee us up like that.
Yeah, it's self-awareness.
Okay.
So they knew their strengths, they knew their weaknesses, they knew when to ask for help, they knew all those things.
Wow.
They knew when to hire somebody who had a trait that was different or better or whatever than theirs. And so.
Wow.
We should always surround ourselves with people that we consider that are better, that we honestly consider better than ourselves. And like, for instance, even some very successful people like Henry Ford, they even though he was thinking he didn't even go to high school or something, but he was always surrounded by people who were more knowledgeable about topics. So whenever he needed something, he would reach out to those people in order to find out something. So definitely is, and that is, is acknowledging that you don't know everything and that you need help from others.
There's also humility that comes with that, just like what you're saying. You're not worried about this other person taking your job, taking your position or your whatever. It's, I know who I am, and my job is to get this person over here, or I know who I am as a person, and I need to surround myself as somebody who's got this. I'm not worried about if they're going to steal my friends or my leads or whatever,
Wow. And if I can't do that, then what's great about looking at those, and I know we only listed 4 things, maybe there's a 5th or 6th thing. Like Dennis was saying, there might be a spectrum there might be a variety of things like this. But I mean, if I look at these and I say, gosh, I can't do that, what a beautiful moment of recognition that I have a problem that I can pray about, I can pray into. And I can say, God, I'm stuck. And I must be hurting, and I must have some kind of a wound or a bondage or both that's preventing me from being what I could be. Because I don't think we should ever look at a situation that we are stuck on or that we have a weakness in or whatever. I don't think we should ever look at that like a moment of condemnation. I think we should look at it we should immediately turn that awareness into a moment of reaching out to our Father.
Yeah. I heard a pastor say one time, I can't remember who it was, I said, if you have trouble asking a person for help, then you're definitely going to have a problem asking God for help, because you can't see God. And so,
Wow. Good. I think there's a lot there.
you know, or asking in faith. I can ask, but do I really believe? You know, and the Bible talks about we got to ask in faith. We got to know with expectation that He's already on the work. You know.
Good. Cool. Well, guys, you want to stop recording and then we can shift into praying?